Constantine, a Hellblazer podcast.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Hell Talk. As always, I am joined by my co-host, Hoku.
Hello, everyone.
And today we are talking about the end of the Brian Azzarello run, issues 168 to 174. And I don't think I have to tell you, Hoku, this run is very contentious. People say this is either tied with the worst or the worst run of Hellblazer out of the 300 issues.
Those are some strong sentiments.
Strong sentiments, I will say that as well. But I get it. I mean, after finishing it, I do understand why. But also, I think it's fine. It was, it's comics. It's comics, everybody.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't bad. It wasn't like the best, but I wouldn't say it's the worst necessarily.
Yeah, like I think if you read this first, which is kind of what I didn't read the whole run, but like I think I read, the prison arc and High Water or something, and then I read Delano. I was like, oh yeah, like this is fine. I didn't have any issues. It just made me like the character, or it was my introduction to the character, and then I found other better comics of the characters, so it wasn't like killing it or something. But yeah, this is definitely, I thought this arc was very weird. This is where we get like most of the SW Manor stuff for the whole thing, which is, I mean, it's good because they've been kind of threatening him for the whole run. They've been saying his name since the end of the prison arc, but then we hadn't seen him until High Water. And now we get a full story arc with him. And so I guess it's nice to know that-ish.
I mean, I guess it was glad they kept with just one big bad for the whole arc with, the occasional small bosses that John had to deal with. I mean, I don't know if it was necessarily worth it in the end, given how things ended, but, it was kind of cool to have a big bad to deal with, even if he was just a rich guy.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess, that a rich guy can be a big bad in real life and stuff, so...
Yeah, it's true to life.
Yeah,
sure.
It could be true to life.
It's a little tame for Hellblazer, but, it's true to life, I guess.
Yeah, that's true. It's not a demon, it's not, the first of the fallen or something. Yeah, it's a guy with a lot of money. In fact, I just in saying that, I'm like, there was no demons or anything in this run.
Well, there was that golem that he made out of the dead guy.
Yeah, but that's not a demon, though, right? So, or like, I mean, there are supernatural things, but I mean, there's no hell.
Yeah, okay, I guess you meant specifically there's no demons in there. Sorry, I thought you meant like demon-y stuff. Like, yeah, I thought you were just encompassing magic and whatnot. But no, you're right. There's no demons or anything to vex him or for him to defeat or anything.
Yeah, I was trying to think like of the supernatural things in this run, and it's like the little bit of magic that John does. Destiny shows up.
Yeah, shows up and then just bounces. That was weird.
Never once answers your questions that you had, that I kept being like, there are answers to things, but I don't want to spoil if it's endless, people, or whatever. Because I knew that it wasn't going to answer anything about that. She was like, I can't wait to get questions about that or answers about that. I'm like, well, you're going to be waiting, I guess. So, and then, yeah, there wasn't too much other stuff. I guess the only like hell mentioned in this is even in this last arc where he's like, here's some sand from hell that I got in a bag.
Yeah.
Kind of weird, a little bit different for Hellblazer. But before we get into the last arc, it starts off with 2 one-shots that I think are equally weird and somewhat put questions in my head about like, what the hell is going on? So out of high water, we just appear in LA and we get like the 2 one-shots. We get John picking up a prostitute at and going to a bingo hall with her, and then bringing her back to him and Turo's room. And then he's like, let's have a devil's 3-way, basically. I'm not sure exactly why we needed that, but
I always thought it was called an Eiffel Tower.
it's both. It's yes and yes to both of those things, but
I'd never heard that phrase before. So
devil's 3-way is when you have 2 guys and a girl.
I mean, that's what I always thought an Eiffel Tower was too. So I don't know. Yeah. I just had never heard that name for it, but there's probably a bunch of names.
Yes, I think the devil's 3-way insinuates that the guys are also going to be together.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
It's not just like we're having sex with this one girl.
Not just finger trapping, basically.
Yes, but we are also enjoying in the sex with each other. So
gotcha. Yeah. That okay. So there's a slight difference to it. Okay, that makes sense.
That's just I'm guessing. I'm assuming that's why it's called that. But so, what do you think was the point of this issue, other than to tell John that everybody thinks he's dead?
I don't know.
Was it just to get John to LA?
Was trying to. Yeah, I guess it was an interesting way to get John to LA. It was an interesting way to push his bisexuality forward, to show how cheeky he is. I don't know. It seemed like a character study of him that was a side of him we hadn't quite seen before. So I don't know. I mean, I liked the bingo scene. I thought that was funny.
I thought the bingo scene was great. It was all the stuff in the room that I was like, I don't feel like this does not feel like John as we know him to me. But
it was like a callback to all of the scenes in prison where they're watching naked ladies dance and talking about important things. It's like almost a distraction technique or something where he's like, hey, check out this naked stuff while I, info dump.
Yeah, let's make this info dump interesting by showing tits or whatever.
Yeah, that seems to be his thing for this whole arc.
I'm a fan of that way of if you're gonna info dump, let's see some boobies. But
I mean, if you have to choose between having, say, John walk along a street while journaling across the page where all you hear are his thoughts, or descriptions with boobs bouncing around, like what would fans choose? I don't know. It's puzzling. It's a hard choice, I guess.
I think the strident Hellblazer fan would say, I want to see him walk in the streets of London and narrate over that. The exposition.
Monologue.
Yeah, monologue over that.
I don't need boobs to be interested in Hellblazer. I want John just smoking and monologuing and being all John. Why are you bringing boobs into this?
But, for the cultured reader, I guess, the boobs being there is helpful, I guess. I don't know.
It did seem like, since this was a more American-centric theme, maybe that was also part of the Americanization of this arc as well.
That's an interesting thought. I mean, this is a very American, it's the only American run of Hellblazer, but it's very American. It's all in America, themes of America. I mean, I think that is why the rich white guy being the big bad works too, because it's America. And so I think what Azzarello does in this fits the setting and his themes, but it doesn't quite fit Hellblazer necessarily. But because it is like fish out of water, John is in America, it's kind of allowable, I guess, is what I would kind of came to in thinking about it. But this issue with the prostitute, I was like, this is weird. But okay, whatever. I thought the next one was even weirder. Because it was literally just John in a bar, drinking with people, telling crazy stories. And then interspersed with that was SW, we're really introduced to SW Manor in his house with the priest and they get to like expand on how terrible of a guy he is. Because previously we've only seen him be terrible to the racist guy in High Water, right? So no one cared that he was like, I'm going to make her suck my dick or you, you know? So it's like, yeah, good for him. Like, but now we're seeing him like, oh, tell me all the confessions of your parishioners that are very juicy and fucked up, father. And then like, yeah. So what do you think about the second one? Did you think it was interesting, or, you know, how'd you feel about it?
Well, we didn't have, boobs as a sidebar to the story, so a little less interesting. Just plot wise, obviously. I guess it's an interesting introduction to a character to have it side by side with John telling stories while another story is happening, or where another instance is happening where he is receiving stories. So, I mean, you have that contrast. Guys just telling stories for fun, and him sort of like braving the depravity of others, just to show how evil he is, I guess.
I guess in a way, it's I didn't realize this, but now that you say that, it's mirroring what's going on with SW.
Yeah.
I'm stupid and didn't notice that. So
it popped in my head, so it really only, just now I was like, oh yeah, I guess it is kind of a mirroring. So I didn't think of it at the time either, so we were just talking about it. But yeah, deep.
Yeah. Well, when you look at it like that, it's not necessarily deep, but it's a good, it's a good writer, not trick, but it's a type of good writing, I guess. At least there's that.
It's like if they were both like walking along the beach, only one was like a really nice beach and one was like a cold, wintry beach, one of those contrasty things.
Yeah. Well, when you put it like that, it makes me like the issue more. I did not read it like that in my head or like see it like that. So maybe that's either I was just not catching what Azzarello was putting down, or like you said, you just realized it too. So maybe it was subtle enough that, no one noticed that other than Azzarello and very astute readers who read many books on mahogany bookshelves. But
and they're kind of a big deal.
Yeah, they're kind of a big deal, leather bound, all that stuff. When I first read this, I was like, I don't know why are we sitting in LA for 2 issues to like introduce all this stuff. I didn't know. Like, we just pretty much go from there and we jump into John's dead in a sex club. Turo's back. He's like the main character of this story arc. How'd you feel about that? Like, one, the mystery of, is John really dead? I mean, it continues because it's already come out, but it continues past this arc. John is alive after this arc, we could assume, because Hellblazer continues. So was the mystery interesting at all? Like whose body is it? That kind of stuff?
I mean, yeah. We kind of just figure it's not John just because we know that the series continues. So trying to get into the headspace of, is it actually John? And if it is, what happened to him? It was more just like, what happened? What was the actual instance of, what was the mystery? How did it actually happen? And them, dragging it out over, what was it, 5 issues?
Yeah, 5, I think.
Yeah, was an interesting choice. I'm glad they didn't pull it out any longer, because it felt like by the 5th issue, it was like, okay, come on, let's just, stop beating a dead horse. Just tell me. But, it was still a fun mystery. I don't know. The sex club stuff was different, a whole different venue for John. He hasn't really done much of that in London, I don't think.
I was going to ask, I was like, so in this arc, we're to assume that like John is down for like S&M activities. Okay. And also he's like some insatiable lover or whatever, I guess, a sex fiend or something. And then as part of that, he's also, this is the first time we're seeing him like confirmed in a bi, in quotation marks, relationship. After they mention it in like issue 50, right? So it's like the first, is it 50? 51, I think. that one shot where they're like, oh, he had a boyfriend at one time. This is like the first time they ever mention that again, pretty much. And like we actually see him with another man in a relationship. So, did you think it was like shock factor, the sex club stuff and like the way John is, or did that play into, was John playing it up for his con that he's pulling on SW?
I mean, I think it was both. Like, obviously the most outrageous thing they could think to put him in after prison. And also, yeah, if that's where SW was going in his recreational time and John really wanted to get back at him, I mean, what better way than to play on his emotions / sexual appetites?
Okay, that also leads me to the twist of the twist on the twist of this story, which is, okay, I believe I have this right in my head, but the order of operations of this whole run, the reason why SW is mad at John is because of the clock. And the reason why SW wants that clock is to raise his parents or from the dead or talk to them or whatever, to see them one last time, because he, like Bruce Wayne, his parents were murdered in front of him as a child. And then when John tricked him, that's when he put into motion this plan to hurt John for a long time, meaning John's going to prison for Lucky's murder. Then he thought John was dead, and that was it. He was very sad. I don't think they were lovers before that.
No, he just had a crush on him.
I'm assuming Lucky Furman or those people told SW he was alive, or no?
No, because he was supposed to, well, oh no, because there was one brother left alive, right?
Right, Richie was still alive, but he also wanted revenge. So that's why I was like, the timing on this was kind of like, I'm not sure when that happened or when this happened.
Because it seems like SW reached out to him, right? To say, hey, he's still alive, when obviously Richie would have known that, right?
Right, but I don't know when that happened in the arc. Like, when did Richie come as part of the plan to kill John?
After he did the whole parents thing, because that's when he got mad at him again.
So John went back to L.A., knowing that it was SW getting, he was trying to get revenge for what SW did to him now.
Yeah.
But then he played it like, I'm here, like, let's make amends. I'll give you what you wanted. You know, here's some sand from hell.
And also a lot of sex. Lots of sex, lots and lots of sex, and then here's your parents.
But the sex, in my opinion, at least, felt, I mean, it wasn't like he was actually in love with him or something, like he actually wanted...
No, totally playing him.
Right, because SW is also disgusting as a person, right? So he's like a fucking serial killer or something. So like...
And funds like racism wars and stuff like that.
Yeah, racism wars, killing orphan children, all that stuff.
Yeah. Overall, he's a despicable person.
Yeah, so when people say, like, this is the confirmation that John is bi, I'm like, I mean, it's not a real relationship. I guess it shows that he will have sex for a man if his plan is part of that or something. But
I mean, I saw it more as like, not necessarily like, oh, the plan is to both like lure him in sexually to get him to trust me. I just saw it as him being like, he is fluid enough to be like, yeah, I'll fuck a dude if there's like a reason behind it. So, you know, if it's part of his plan, like, yeah, he will totally emotionally devastate, like sexually devastate, own this guy, just so that it hurts even more when he finally pulls out the magic and is just like, also your parents hate you, you know, just like a devil's three-way of like just destroying this guy. Yes,
there you go. It's John, Misery, and SW. That's the devil's three-way.
Just like absolute destruction of him from the inside out. Hey, that's exactly what happened to that other guy. I blew up from the inside out. So, you know, it's both visually and emotionally. Spontaneous combustion of both SW's feelings and emotions and also the other dude.
That's a bit of a convoluted back and forth. I gotta say, I had to read the end, this last arc, like 4 times to like fully figure it out. And like I said, and even with that, the timing doesn't quite, I have to like move stuff around in my head to make it make sense fully. But it does at least answer the questions of why is SW after him? why is John in this relationship in the first place? It seems odd. I also think, now that we're talking about it, maybe the issue with Turo and the prostitute, maybe that was to show John as like, one, super horny, two, willing to have sex with a guy and a girl. You know what I mean? Like he's just down.
It was foreplay.
Yeah, he's DTF or whatever to this whole thing. So maybe that was just to like expand the reader's horizons enough to get them used to the idea of what's going to come. Maybe. I don't know.
I could see that, yeah. I did think it was weird that he was actually willing to pick up a prostitute to have sex with her, considering his views on prostitution before. Like, oh no, my ex-girlfriend or a girl I liked for a little bit is a prostitute. I have to save her. To, hey, yes, I'll totally pick up this prostitute, youngish prostitute, and take her out and then invite her to have a three-way. It was a weird switch.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's America, I guess.
So apparently his views can change.
That was a British prostitute.
Different flavors, I guess.
What happens in the U.S. stays in the U.S. I do feel what everybody's kind of complaint is about this run, and that is Azzarello had a story to tell, and he told it with John, and that wasn't necessarily, like, it didn't have to be John. It could have been anybody, but he told it with John, you know, like...
Yeah.
I feel that for sure, but I think the way that he did it still works because he did put John in America. He did he did enough to make me like okay with what he did. You know what I mean?
He used enough magic and enough John-ness to sort of balance the American-ness of the story.
Yeah, or just in general, like it's not even that necessarily. It's that he did enough Hellblazer stuff, and you give him enough grace because it is America, and John is out of place, and you know this is a different kind of monster he's fighting. It's a rich guy instead of a demon or whatever. The rules are different in that case. So you, in my mind at least, you give him grace enough so that it works, but not like amazingly so. You know, and I get why that's why people are like, fuck this run. It's not my John. My John is, you know, doing this and that and giving the devil the finger and blah, blah, blah. But because this is in America, you can kind of be like, yeah, but when he's in America, this is what happened. And that's why it felt awkward, because he's awkward in America. He does not belong here, right?
Well, there was that one where he was on like that trip for a really long time in New York. I mean, mental...
Yes,
trip.
But even that, you could say, like, yeah, he doesn't belong in America because he literally got thrown into the homeless facility and then almost raped and then pissed on and all. Like,
but that's what I mean. So, like, it's not like he hasn't been a fish out of water before. So this was still, it felt similar to that. I think the difference is that one was very magic centric, like to the point where it was like he was in a whole different underdimension. And so there was still a lot more magic in that one, like actual overarching magic. But in this one, it's like there's a taste of magic. There's a little bit of weirdness, but it's mostly very, you know, like America-centric with the sex and the drugs and the prison and the racism and the hillbillies and all that stuff. So I think maybe the balance of it was just, there just wasn't enough John plus magic to counteract just how much of America was like oversaturating everything.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, he's the only writer that, well, not the only writer that could write America, but like, since he is American, if you're going to have John be in America for an extended period of time, that's probably the better writer to do it, because, I mean, even if you're a really good writer, you might still get stuff wrong or not capture the feel of America, you know, if you didn't live here for your whole life, kind of thing. So, and especially like if you go across the states, right? So it's one thing if you're just in New York, and maybe those writers have been to New York, but if you've never been to bumfuck in the middle of nowhere, Washington, or, you know, you might not capture those people well, or those places well.
Oh yeah, wherever that storm was. I don't think they ever said where that was.
Right, they didn't say where that was, but we can assume maybe like Indiana or something like that. So
Yeah, then all the way to the West Coast.
yeah, I get why people don't like it, but I guess I give it a pass because Azzarello said it in America, so it does feel like it would be completely different feeling, or it should feel completely different than the rest of Hellblazer, which it does. So I don't know. I give it a little bit of a pass for that. I'm not saying it's like my favorite arc or anything, but I don't hate it as much as other people seem to hate it. I'll say that.
Yeah, I'm kind of neutral about it. It was fine as a story. It'll never be a favorite, but I wouldn't say it was like the worst story ever, especially what you told me of like Hellblazer and stuff.
Yeah, right. The after the New 52 reboot of John.
Oh, won't that be fun to get into? If we do. If you do. That is your choice.
There's so much ephemera of this after this arc, or after this 300 issue run, that I could dig into, that it doesn't really. I could do that for like another 4 years and not even touch the New 52 Hellblazer stuff. So yeah. And I probably will do that because I don't want to read that stuff. Yeah, so back to the main story of this last arc here. So Agent Turo is the main character because John is dead. And so he's investigating that. Now, of course, and this was an interesting, I guess this has to be just because, like, I imagine Azzarello's like, hey, Marcelo, what do you want to draw? And Marcelo's like, a lot of tits at a sex dungeon club. He's like, got it. And then they did this arc because it's literally like, oh, Turo has to interview all these dominatrixes and stuff, and they're all in uniform. None of them put a shirt on or anything. They're all just tits out, lingerie, straps and
chains and whips and
exactly
paddles.
I'm not complaining. I'm just, it was almost every page. I'm like, how am I going to show any of this on? Like, I can only show the covers on YouTube. I think every page of these issues pretty much has some kind of something I'm not allowed to show.
Just like checking him out on Patreon, which, by the way, guys, yeah. He does share some of the panels, and yeah, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's that. None of that can go on YouTube.
What did you think of, I guess, the like amount of sex and everything in this last arc, and did it fit the overall story? And then what do you think of Turo as like at one as the main character of this arc, and then two as like we got to know him a little bit better, where he's kind of, you think he's a misogynistic asshole, like macho guy, and then when he's like, I want to interview the girl with the big tits, and Havlic's like, of course you do. I bet she has a lot of information you need to pump from her or whatever. And then like, he's like, well, no, she's the only one who's crying. So I'm assuming she knew John, like him picking up on that stuff showed he wasn't just an asshole. Maybe that did play something into it, but he was doing a good job at detecting. So like, what'd you think of all that?
I liked learning a little more about him because, I mean, other than him being the one who got John out of prison at the very beginning, right? So
right, yeah. They met at a bar after Good Intentions, where he told him to go to High Water. But he's only shown up the last issue of the prison arc, the bar, and then this whole arc. And
with the prostitute in the room, right?
Well, that's what I mean, this whole like this last 6 issues.
Yeah. I liked learning more about him. I mean, it's one thing to just have a guy be like, go this way. And then, that's it. So that he kept using him, I appreciated that. So he wasn't just a throwaway character. There was never confirmation about why he didn't join that three-way, because he never said anything about, oh, yeah, my wife or girlfriend or whatever.
They insinuated that he had a wife.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, too, is that you don't know necessarily that it was a woman.
Right. Well, they insinuated that he had a partner, whatever, or someone significant that he was, not wanting to cheat on.
But he could have also just been, he could have had nobody, but he just liked to have an excuse. Like, they never concretely said why, other than John assuming, like, say hi for me or tell her hi for me. That was just either John knows, but he also wouldn't say what exactly that meant. I mean, they never really explained exactly why, especially when he kept flirting later on.
Right, that's what I was going to say. But then immediately he's just flirting with Havlik, and it seems like if he lived through this case, they would be fucking outside the gates right now, like, or in one of the rooms of this mansion.
So it was kind of weird that he bowed out of the three-way, but then also continues with the flirting. So either that's supposed to be just a character thing with him, where he like talks a big game but can't ultimately go through with it, or he does have a significant other of some kind, and then just always pulls back the last minute. But for whatever reason, he still likes to do the flirting because that's part of his, I feel better, I'm a big man, because, oh yeah, ladies or whatever, but never actually goes through with it. So it was a weird quirk of his character that we never really got an answer about, like what exactly his MO was with all that.
Yeah, I guess we're just supposed to assume because, he dies. So we get no confirmation.
Yeah, and then he dies. So we get no answers with that either. A little frustrating. But overall, I thought it was fun to include him heavily in this last bit, since he was just kind of introduced and sort of a shadow for most of the run. So, yeah, I did like that. As far as the whole sex club thing, interesting choice of venue for all this. But, I mean, go big or go home. So... How could you top the prison, I guess, Yeah,
good point. They had to like bookend it with something bigger than the prison. And that was like, a lot of tits and ass on the page while we're interviewing people, or when they recount what's going on. So there's lots of scenes of sex, with John getting like wax poured on him by people and stuff, and in the middle of foreplay or actual sex acts that are in like silhouette or whatever. So yeah, there was a lot of like, we'll say fan service in this arc, this ending arc.
Yeah, he was really letting his freak flag fly.
Well, that's why I was like, okay, he's never ever in any of the other like Hellblazer. Like when he's with Kit, he's we don't ever see them like because they always show him in the morning with her on the bed, or like anybody he slept with.
He does seem very vanilla.
Yeah, he's just like, I like to fuck the ladies. I'm not getting chains and whips and whatever out. I
mean, maybe they'll get a little interesting, but it's still just him and his girl in a bed. And there's never any like the next day that they don't wake up and there's like toys everywhere and straps and all that stuff. It's usually just a rumpled bed. Like, so, they had fun, but there was never this
right.
level. So I don't know. Again, it was either they just Americanized him to the point where he's just like, yeah, I'm going to get into all this either to entice SW or just for shits and giggles of him trying something new. Or maybe it was magic. Maybe magic dick. I don't know. Like a spell or just like maybe it's some sort of a spell or a magic to make people think he was this amazing lover. And maybe he's just in the corner laughing at everybody having sex with a fake John. I don't know,
It could be, I mean, honestly, it could be that. I wouldn't be super
Astral
shocked.
projection was the thing he could do, right? So,
I mean, I'm just going by like what we know about John. And John is willing to play the long con and go along with horrible shit in order to get his, mission done, right? So him having to do the horrible, in quotation marks, thing of having a lot of fucking hot, randy S&M sex, I don't think is out of the question. You know what I mean? Like, he has made deals with the devil and everything to get shit done, like whatever needs to happen so that he gets to live and hopefully the people he likes don't die. That was another different thing. There was no friends in this run except Turo, so Turo dies. But that's it.
Oh, yeah, that's right. He didn't have a gang with him to, like, help him do all his things that he needed done. It really was just Turo. Huh. Yeah, that is different.
And maybe that's the only same thing, is that because Turo was friendly with John, he gets the axe.
Oh, yeah. No, that tracks. That totally tracks. But it is weird he didn't have, like, a bunch of people die around him or hate him or,
Yeah, or other people he picked up for help along the way,
Yeah.
you think there'd be some kind of like, if Papa Midnight was in New York, there might be other people he could have met along the way, magical people, something. But yeah, I mean, I'm willing to. I mean, this is all us kind of filling in gaps that are kind of there because of the lack of strength of the arc. But I'm willing to say like John would. That's why I'm like, this isn't really a relationship. He wasn't in love with SW or whatever. It's more like he's going by for the mission or whatever,
For the cause.
Yeah, for the cause. But like, I mean, even if he is by either way, but like, yeah, like to me, this isn't the way people said it before I read this arc, like years ago. They're like, yeah, I mean, John's bi obviously because he had that relationship with SW, and so I'm like, what? Like as I'm reading this run, I was like, when does John have this relationship, and why would he have a relationship with SW? And only until the last 5 issues do we even get any of that, and it seems like it's part of a long con more than a relationship. You know what I mean? It's a fake relationship, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, if you qualified that with saying, oh, so he totally invented this fake relationship to trick SW into trusting him again, just so he could, turn around and like mentally anguish him.
I mean, that's what he did, though. He literally did that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But people are saying, no, this is a legit relationship. It's like, well, it's a fake relationship that he construes.
It was legit for SW until John walked away when his parents were like, we hate you.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a fake relationship. That doesn't necessarily mean that, oh, yeah, so he is totally 100% into dudes now. It's like, well, regardless of what he is, like you said, regardless of whether he is or not, this is not an example of John in a healthy relationship with a dude. This is John using a relationship with a dude to get what he wants.
Right. Not even I don't even need to be in a healthy relationship with a dude, just a relationship that is both sided. You know what I mean? Like,
well, like, equal to any of the other women that he's dated, on that sense. Like, those were technically healthy relationships because there was a give and take of him being like, I, really like this person likes me until he messes it up. That's all I meant by healthy. I didn't mean like a strong, we're going to get married and have kids relationship or anything, but, just
SW is no kid.
A normal relationship. Yes. No, absolutely not. He's not even,
Danny.
No, I'm thinking way back with,
Zed,
the sister and the
Marge.
Yes. Thank you. Like even then he was technically using her, but still it was a relationship of sorts. It was a, bit of a parasitic relationship, but it was still more real than this one.
But they both knew what they were in there for. Like they both knew what they were getting, and it was up front.
Yeah, this was definitely a one-sided con, a faux relationship specifically to hurt SW because John's just like, I hate you.
Yeah.
And I pretended this whole time. Ha ha ha. You're stupid and I hate you and you're an evil person. And your parents hate you too. Like that was just the icing on the cake, man.
So with that being said, what do you think of John and SW's relationship? Like, I mean, do you think SW is just so in love with John that he overlooked the possibility that John is conning him again? Because this isn't the first time John's conned him.
Oh, yeah, totally. I think, he was one of those guys who probably because he has so much money and so much influence, he could believe that a guy like John, like, well, he's learned his lesson, and now he's willing to let bygones be bygones and make this work. Because obviously he realizes how important and big of a important guy I am, and I'm rich and I have all this stuff and I can give him anything he wants. And all I want is for John to love me. So yes, I think he 100% believed it.
Do you think that's part of it? Like that he's so rich, he can't see past that. Like, I get what I want. So when John shows up and is like, I want you, he's like, of course. Like he's blinded so much by it. Oh
yeah, totally. He has that ego 100%.
I like that. I never thought about that. Cause I was always like, why would he fall for John? He's like, I found out like I've only interacted with him twice. The one time was when I got conned and I kind of, there wasn't really any like spark or flirt there, but I guess you could read that into it. Maybe SW had a crush on him from that moment on.
Well, I think SW definitely had a crush on him, and then supposedly saving his life probably still left an impact. Even if he thought, well, John must have conned me somehow, he probably still didn't necessarily think the worst of John, just that he was like, oh, that kidder, he played me. So even though he was angry about it, he didn't want to die. He was just like, I'll punish him for, a bit. But once he found out he was dead, he was like, oh no, I went too far, not John. So I think it was one of those things where it made a really big impact on him, just how cool and, awesome John was, because he does have that effect on people. That yeah, it was like enough of a thing to where if he was obsessing with John that much, that he could probably overlook the fact that when John comes to him, he would see it as legitimate.
Okay, I also could see it like he obsessed about what John did to him, like tricked him, and like he obsessed about it for years, right? Because that was when John was a kid, like a teenager, or like not teenager, I guess like 20s. And so the idea that he's thinking about it for 20 years or something, finally gets his revenge, and like that's when he realizes, oh, like I've obsessed about John so much, I'm basically in love with him. Like it's like the Joker is in love with Batman kind of thing, like all he does is think about John.
Yeah, definitely an unhealthy obsession.
Yes, yeah. And so I think I don't know if it was love, I think it was more like that, like an unhealthy obsession is a good way to put it. And then when John comes back alive and is like, I'm down to be with you, let's fuck and make up, and here you can talk to your parents and all this stuff. It's like a whirlwind, and he's just overcome by it because, once again, like you said, he's also like, well, of course he wants me. I'm fucking SW Manor. I get everything I want. So, yeah, I like that interpretation of it.
And he probably also is like, and he respects me because he knows what I can do to him. Like, I got him put in jail. I could have had him murdered, and when I thought he did, but he got out of it. So he must respect me too, because I am SW as well. So to believe that John can be like, yeah, I get it now. I see what a big man you are. I'm totally down, to be with you. We've had our spat. You got me, I got you, that sort of thing. But now we're on even ground. Let's do this. I think he could totally be bought by that.
Now we can be debauched together.
Yes.
Yeah, I like that interpretation. Unfortunately, it is kind of just our interpretation of it. So I wish there was more like actual confirmation from the writer on it. But it's one of those things like you'll get different things out of it the way you read it or analyze it. So, yeah. I would want more like actual confirmation on some of these things, but which you could do. There was no narration in this, so you could definitely have him narrate a lot of that, like John does usually.
Some musings at the end, or throughout, like when he starts showing up, because all it was is like outsiders' opinions of what happened. So maybe at the very end, a little bit of a John musing when he's standing over Turo would have been nice little end cap to, just give us a quick couple of bubbles of just what John's thoughts have been through all this. Would have been nice.
Yeah, I mean, you could have done it even from the beginning to now. Like if you just kind of seed that he's planning or something, like he's going to get the guy back, or like SW, why do I know that name? Because honestly, the first time I read this all the way through, like the whole run, I was like, who the fuck is SW and why does he want to kill John? Because I did not get that Stanley from that 2-issue arc where he sold Stanley the clock was SW. Because Stanley and the art in that looks like he's about 45. So I'm like, well, SW looks like he's about 35 in this ending arc. So that's not the same guy. And also they call him Stanley. And until the priest started calling him Stanley, the second time I read it through, that's when I was like, oh, SW, the S stands for Stanley. That's that Stanley. Now I'm making the connection.
And the clock on the mantle. The
clock on the mantle also. I'm like, because I just thought, how do you get that? I mean, he's seeding these things, but like those two things are so far apart
And I guess if the art doesn't like translate as well to where, like you said, if he looks older in the past than what he does now, then that's also a kind of a weird transition as well.
Yeah, he didn't look like a young man. He looked like, he looked like he was the age he is now, but 20 years ago. So if I'm thinking Stanley is going to look like an old man now, well, SW does not look like that.
Or if he was supposed to be younger there, but wasn't drawn to look like he was 20, then, and then he ages 20 years and he looks the same, then yeah, that would be a weird artistic choice that didn't help their transition of him from that one guy who wanted to clock to the richest man in the world or whatever.
Right. But that all could have been fixed and explained in, the classic John thought narration or whatever, that wasn't in this whole run pretty much. So I think there's a little bit of it in the first prison arc, but I don't think it's like the narration of Turo or the narration of the other guy in prison, the like right-hand man of the mob boss. He's got thoughts in that one, but John isn't thinking. And then from then on, when John's out of there, there's no thoughts of him pretty much. So you could have just stuck with the John Constantine format and explained a lot of this through that. And it wouldn't feel cheapened or out of place. It actually might make it feel more like Hellblazer.
I was just going to say, now that you mentioned it, that might also been another just subtle reason of why people don't feel this is their John, is because he doesn't do John things like monologue, internal thoughts all the time.
Yeah, because also that just shows he's thinking about something. He's got a plan, like that's, and the whole thing we're just like he's rolling with the punches, but the whole time he had this plan, so. Or maybe he didn't. Maybe he only came up with it when he went to LA. I don't know.
Yeah. So another contrast to previous arcs and writers is to have that lack of inner monologue probably also distanced fans who liked or were used to that. And then they get like little to none of that in this. And that's also very fish out of water for John to not be that character, to be our guide, essentially, when it's everybody else talking about him, around him, about what happened to him. And we don't really get his perspective on things.
Yeah, I think that's a big part of this run that's missing in the Hellblazer style or whatever, right?
So I can definitely see why people will say that it's like, it's like in Clash of Titans, the original, the claymation one, where they just pick that guy up and pop him into the arena and he wakes up there and he's like, where am I? So it was it seems like it's that kind of feeling where the writer was just like, hey, so I'm just going to take John out of here and put him in my story. And then just, now I'm going to do my thing with John in my story. So
yeah, that's another thing. Yeah. Like you said, like maybe Azzarello doesn't like to write all that narration dialogue. So he's not gonna, because that's not his writing style. It's like, well, but you're writing Hellblazer and that's kind of been the style for 48 or 45 issues or 49 issues or whatever it's been. So like maybe you should have done that.
So yeah, I would agree that it was probably a story he wanted to tell and he did it in a medium that was available to him, but it didn't do enough to make it a John story. So it's still technically a Hellblazer story, but it's as if it's a story written with John in it versus a John story.
That's a good way to put that. Speaking of this being a story he wanted to tell that he put John into, now that we've seen the whole ending where you see the real extent of SW's depravities, where he's taking these boys and he's feeding them to his vampire bats and shit. What do you think of the parallels to Bruce Wayne? Do you actually think this was supposed to be like a really fucked up Batman story?
I mean, unless Batman was meant to be the antagonist in all this, which makes no sense. I don't understand how it could be a Batman story. It would be if John was supposed to be the Batman character, then this would just be another billionaire who had like the same thing happen to him, only he went in the opposite direction of Batman, becoming a villain instead of a hero who fights crime. So I don't really know how this could be a Batman story unless he was pissed off about something and wanted to do a story where Batman was the villain of like, here's what could have happened. And then I guess DC just was like, no, we don't want to tell that story. And he's like, well, fuck you, I'm going to find another way to do it. So yeah, I have no idea how that would be a Batman story the way it's told.
Yeah, I mean, I think he obviously changed something if he did intend this to be like a weird Batman story, but in my views, it's more like a parody of Batman, or of Bruce Wayne specifically. It's like, if you were this rich kid who had all the money in the world and your parents died, you wouldn't end up being like, I'm going to avenge you and fight crime. You'd be this depraved son of a bitch who gets whatever he wants. And, instead of saving orphans, he murders them. Instead of, helping, whatever, the poor people, he's giving them guns and trading with neo-Nazis and all this stuff. And just because he can.
Going
it's
to
just fun.
Dungeons.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably the least offensive thing he does. It's like, hey, if you want to go fuck in a sex dungeon, go for it. That's like, at least that's legal and consensual.
Well, I mean, compared to Bruce Wayne, who has sex with movie stars and like that sort of thing versus, I mean, Bruce Wayne's, as far as I know, never gone to a sex dungeon.
Does Bruce Wayne have sex with movie stars? I mean, that's what he puts on, but in the movies and stuff, he always just like sends them home. Like they leave the premiere.
I always assumed in the comics he actually hit that, so.
I don't know. I don't think I've ever seen that either.
No?
No.
Oh, I always just assumed because he had all these girlfriends that he was actually having relationships with them. I mean, they alluded to in Batman and Robin. Yeah, I mean, they alluded it in that, but at the same time, I always assumed that he's a playboy. So to me, I was like, yeah, he has different hot girlfriends all the time. He must be like a player because that's part of his persona.
Right, but I think it's just it was like the outside persona. Like, they spend time at a party, then he's like, I'm going to go fuck these bitches, and then he leaves and then sends them home. You know what I mean? Like, it's just to keep the show up, but he's not actually partaking in the Playboy lifestyle.
Well, I mean, unless he pays them really well to say, yeah, and then, if they ask, we totally had sex, but then he doesn't, then that's just sort of like a thing he's got to maintain, I guess. I just assumed.
But wouldn't it be like advantageous to them if they say, oh, yeah, we fucked Bruce Wayne?
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, it could be like a status thing, right? So if they've slept with Bruce Wayne, that opens doors for them or something. I don't know.
Then that's a rabbit hole. Let's focus on Hellblazer.
This is true. Anyway, I see the parallels, especially in the last issue where they show him like about to feed a boy named Tim, who was the Robin at the time, Tim Drake, 2 bats. I mean, I was like, wow, this is like on the nose, and also like his parents being killed and all that stuff. So
yes. Absolutely. But I don't understand how he would have written this to be a Batman story unless it was either Elseworlds or one of those one shots. So
I fully agree. I'm like, I think people are wrong when they say this was like him making a Batman story and then making it a Hellblazer, or he had a Batman story that was really fucked up that he wanted to tell, couldn't, and just put Hellblazer in it and change the name of the guy. Or he had a story of like a parody Batman where, it's like The Boys or Brat Pack or one of those kind of comics that are tearing apart heroes that we already know, and or The Watchmen or that kind of thing. And then like and then like DC didn't want to do it, or it was just on the back burner. He's like, oh wait, I can make this a Hellblazer story and it'll still have that like obvious parallel of this could have been Bruce Wayne, or is this Bruce Wayne, in Hellblazer world or some shit, or is this just another billionaire in Hellblazer's continuity or whatever? But I don't think it was actually, the way people talk about it, they're like, this was just a Batman story he wrote that didn't get in, and then he just shoved John into it. And I'm like, if that was true, I can't imagine it would have been 40 issues.
Yeah.
That's a long run.
Yeah, that is a really long, stretched out story to try to just say it's a Batman story when there's a lot more to it than that.
Yeah, also SW doesn't come into it until the end, right? So like, I mean, his name is mentioned at the beginning, and then until like issue 65 or whatever, he's not even brought up again. I was telling you guys about it. I was like, remember, this is about SW as we were going through the issues, because I totally forgot about it the first time I read this all the way through. I was like, who the fuck is SW? Like, oh yeah, the guy that Taro mentioned in prison. I totally forgot that was the like main mission that John was on.
Which I did appreciate, because I would have forgotten that sort of stuff easy. But yes, the way you mentioned it as like the boys or Watchmen, where it's a twisted version, like the Injustice League or something, like where it's a twisted version of what we know. That I could see him wanting to tell a story of that, be like, what, like a what if, like an Elseworlds, but in Hellblazer's world, because it worked. If it's like, okay, if he's in America, like, who would the big bad be? It would be someone like Bruce Wayne, but obviously who went down the wrong path of, instead of being like a guy who beats up bad guys because, justice and stuff, he's a guy who steps on people and accumulates as much wealth as he can because he wants what he can't have. And he just likes to hurt people instead of like, helping people to solve, to get what he wants, and also to like, heal that hurt, because rather than helping people and feeling like I am saving people, he's just like, well, I've lost everything, so I'm just going to accumulate everything and hurt as many people as I can. So no, I don't see that as like a literal, here's a Batman story in Hellblazer world. I see it as, like you said, a parallel of here's the boys or Watchmen in Hellblazer world, using Batman as like the prototype.
Yeah, and that's why I'm like, I don't fully agree with, once people hate something, they just tack on shit or whatever. So I could definitely see this being like, an idea jotted down on a piece of paper in Azzarello's, writing room. And then he's like, oh, this would fit as like a big bad guy in John's, in John's arc I'm going to write for this whole run. So like, if that's the end point, if SW's the end point and he's this fucked up Bruce Wayne, then how do we get there? Like I could see that. But to say that this was all like a plotted out or like a really thought out, this was supposed to be a Batman story, I'm like, I don't see that at all. And that's like the main critique everybody kind of throws at it. I'm like, I don't think that's what happened. I don't feel like that, at least. But
yeah, I can agree with you there. I mean, we have no idea. It could be that's 100% what happened. Like,
let me call Azzarello and check.
I know, but he's got to be on your list of people you got to ask about these arcs and
yeah,
everyone
exactly.
you got a question about. So when you were writing this, just add him to your list of eventual interviewees that you need to get on this show. But after talking about it, I think I will never love it, but I think I like it a little bit more. Now that we've talked about the subtleties and the plot and the characters and the sort of whys of things, at least the way we've interpreted them, I think it's grown on me a little bit more. I don't think it's as bad as maybe I was feeling going through it originally.
Yeah, and also like it's a full run. So like as compared to like the Warren Ellis run, which was 12 issues and some change or something, some issues that didn't even get published until like 10 years later. Like at least you got to tell a full run and like got to finish the story. So with that being said, like do you think, like, what do you think of the Azzarello run on its own as a story, like altogether, and then compared to the others? I know you hate ranking them, but I mean, you don't have to actually rank them. But like, do you think this falls alongside Warren Ellis or alongside the Phillips run or the Jenkins run? Like, what do you think?
I would probably put it under everything except Ellis's run, just because that one it feels so incomplete and it doesn't feel fair to compare them. But if we are comparing just story wise, there's more here. There's a complete story. It's weird. It's different, but the story had a beginning, a middle, and end. The end was fulfilling enough in a way. It's not the worst. And I would rather take a complete story that's like kind of okay than an incomplete story that's like, what was that even about? So yeah, it's not the best. It'll never be the best. There are so many other better stories, and there probably will be better stories after this. So it's an interesting sidetrack on John's journey. And overall, I am just happy that it seemed to maintain itself the entire time. There was a story to tell, and it was weird, and it was unpredictable, which is always nice. So it never really got boring. It did get confusing for sure, but it still had, like you said, an ending. So I would say it's not bad. It's better than I thought it was originally going through it. Now that we have a more complete picture about it, but yeah, no, I would say it's in the middle to lower.
Yeah, I feel the same. One thing I do think actually works in its favor is that it's so different. Like when you have 145 issues of kind of the same thing, it's going to be like, well, how many times can John trick the devil? You know, like, so the fact that this for like 3 or 4 years, this was just different. And then, you know, to compare it to the other stuff, it's like, oh yeah, I understand people hate it because it is different, but the fact that it is different does add like a breath of fresh air. It might get stale a little bit by the end, but then now we're back to Britain with Mike Carey in the next run. So like it's gotta, like, in the context of the whole like 300 issues, I think it is kind of good to have like this weird arc in America that changed it up really a lot, and, you know, had it in a different place, changed John a little bit, added some mysteriousness to him. And hell, I mean, I'm sure when I say like my critique on like him not having a real bi relationship with SW because they didn't have a relationship, I'm like, well, it still did push the boundaries with, I mean, topics like, you know, being gay or bi, or even there's a trans woman in the S&M club that they interview. Like him throwing those things out in 2002, those ideas sticking around. I mean, back then, if John had sex with SW, then it was just like, oh, he's gay. Like I don't even know. I don't remember bi being a thing when I was 14 or whatever. So, I mean, obviously it was, but I just in the zeitgeist of what people were talking about is like, oh, if you've had sex with a man, you're gay. Not really. There's not like any other term for it or whatever. So him just throwing that out there as a topic or as, you know, a story point, even if it wasn't a real relationship, is still like boundary pushing, and it did push further the character being bi overall, I guess.
Yeah, I can agree with that. That and just, you know, it pushed a lot of boundaries. We'll say that.
Yes. I mean, that's what it was trying to do, obviously. I mean, Azzarello is not a tame writer, and he's known to do that kind of stuff. So, but yeah. So I don't think it deserves as much hate as it does get. Do you think it does get too much hate, or do you think it's hated for good reason?
No, I think people just get butthurt about stuff changing, and, you know, they take it personally when it's not exactly what they want. So I've never really been that butthurt about stuff. So it was weird. It was fresh. It did what it was supposed to do, and it had a complete story. So no, I don't hate it. And I think that if people do hate it, that's their opinion, and it's sad that something fake can make somebody, so angry. Then again, I do get angry about stuff, like I understand that part of it, but it's not the worst thing in the world. It really isn't.
Yeah, no. One thing that was interesting was while I was reading it, I was like, this is fun. Like, I don't understand why everybody gets so mad about it. Then I read the first issue of the Mike Carey run a couple weeks ago, and I'm like, ooh, classic John just tastes so good. Like, so then I was like, oh, I guess I do understand what they're saying. Like, if you were really just like when you're in the middle of 40 issues, you kind of forget what old Coke tastes like, and with the cocaine in it or whatever.
Pepsi free or whatever.
Yeah,
it was
they got new Coke. New Coke is
and
what
mix up the the formula a little bit.
Yeah, John, the Azzarello John is Crystal Pepsi, And, we got that for a couple of years. And then you're like, I forgot what regular Pepsi tastes like. And you go taste that. And you're like, oh, shit, it is really, really good. So, yeah. So, but I think it is a nice breath to just throw in there like, this is different. What the heck? Oh, now we're back to normal or whatever, so like we're back to the status quo. To shake it up a bit is fun to me.
Sure. Yeah.
And it obviously was popular enough to keep selling the title.
Yeah, it's not like he tanked the series with this. So.
Yeah, like there's literally a writer later on that everybody says is the worst run.
Oh.
That was when it got canceled. So, I mean, maybe that run is worse. I don't know. People really hate that one. That's the one. Like, there's no excuse of like, he's American, John's in America, any of that shit. It is like, it's a British writer, a well-known writer who people know can write well and write things that they like and good characters and stuff. So I'm interested. I read it when it was coming out but I was like, it was so long ago. And also like, I was so new to Hellblazer. Like that was those like issues in the late 200s, like were kind of where I started reading Hellblazer monthly. So I was just like, yeah, John. And I had like no context for anything else. So after reading all 300 issues before we get to that guy's run, it'll be interesting to see what I think about that. But we still got about 70 issues to get there. So
we got time. But yes, now I'm curious to see. Okay, so this is sort of like outrage just for it being new and different. But if you have outrage for it being bad, that's a whole different whole different thing.
Yeah, the Azzarello run is considered the second worst. So, yeah, but we'll get there. We'll get there. But I will say, Mike Carey, I'm in the middle of that run right now. I'm having a blast, so that should be fun to talk about as well. And before we leave, was there anything that I missed that you wanted to talk about?
Did you have a favorite cover this time? I was not like super jazzed by any of them really in particular, except for maybe the one with Turo on the front was kind of cool.
Yeah, there's like, okay, so when I'm like, oh, I love Tim Bradstreet covers, these aren't the covers I'm talking about. And I do love Tim Bradstreet, but like, okay, whenever he's got like John by himself smoking, I'm like, that's a sick cover.
Yeah, the first two with him and his shadows are pretty cool.
Yeah, like I like the one where the demon shadow is behind John, like he's casting this demon shadow.
Yeah,
that's a good one. That's issue 169. And then if I have to pick out of the Ashes and Dust in Los Angeles storyline, I'm going to pick the one that you said, the Turo one, because that at least is like a main character and like it tells a story. You got this detective, his gun's on the table, he's got coffee, he's looking at us or someone who's holding John's file, and he's questioning us, like the reader who's going to read this issue. So it kind of tells a story on its own, and I like that. Whereas all the other ones are kind of just like collages of images that I don't know what they mean until you read the issue, and then it's like, oh, okay. But the funny thing is, like, when I talk about Tim Bradstreet, he continues doing the covers like for the rest of the Mike Carey run, I believe.
Oh. And
those are the ones I'm like, yes. Like one of those is the what I use for the logo for the podcast. So
okay.
Yeah, so that's when I'm like, I love Tim Bradstreet covers. And then when we started reading this run of Azzarello and he was doing them, I'm like, these aren't the ones I remember. Like, where are the ones that I'm like really into? And it's like, oh, it's all the Mike Carey run covers. That's what I'm into, which was funny. So
he used that split motif a lot too during this run, like with the prison one, with the when he was also traveling. There were a lot of like multi-segmented shot covers. So maybe that was just his thing for this arc.
Yeah, maybe. Well, he started I believe, so he did the cover for Shoot. But I don't know if that was done already, that Warren Ellis issue that didn't get published, the Columbine one. But I don't know if that was published or not published, but if that was completed at the time, or if he did that in 2011 when they released it. Because he is like known as like the Hellblazer cover guy. So if it wasn't him, it would be like Glenn Fabry who did all the Garth Ennis covers. So maybe they just got him for that release. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it was just a motif he was doing like for his covers, unless it was a single person like John on the cover. But once he gets into the Mike Carey run, there is some of that still a little bit, but I feel like they're way cooler looking. Like automatically, like something changes and all of a sudden the Mike Carey run, the covers look way cooler, even though some of them are still in that like, you know, collage style. I'm not sure why.
Oh. Well, I don't know.
It's just like he got better at designing or something. I don't know.
Maybe the covers are just more static in these, where maybe they're more dynamic in the other ones.
Yeah, I'm actually looking through them right now, and it seems like, so the ones that are kind of like, there are some that are similar where there's like rectangles or squares that are layered on top in the collage, but then there's ones that are like circles. There's lots of circles, and those ones are more appealing to me. There's like circular patterns and stuff. So I don't know. Maybe it's just they look more magic-y or something, and not just like kind of what's all this shit on this page.
Leather and crotches and stuff.
Yeah. Who knows? But then it very clearly after like a certain part just becomes like John on the cover every time, and I'm like, okay, I like this one. I like when he basically moves to John on the cover every time. I'm like, that's it. That's cool. I like that. So and then of course the classic image that I used for the podcast logo. That issue, that cover's fantastic, and it's also a poster I wish I had.
Oh,
unfortunately. This was way before I got into Hellblazer, so that poster was not around when I... Anyway, yeah, so those are the covers I liked. The Turo one, which is 171, and then the John by himself, 169.
nice.
Yeah, so we liked the same covers on this time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Well, we will be back now that we finished the Brian Azzarello run. We'll be back with the first arc of Mike Carey, which is I think 175 to 180. There's like a 2-part story, like a little short 2-part story, and then there's a 4-issue arc right after that. So we'll do those two for the next one.
Oh, fun.
So with that, we will see you guys on the next one.
See you next time, guys.
Bye.